Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the second episode of the Klas Podcast. I'm Nathan, co-founder and CEO of Klas, and here with me is Rob from Kibo School. Hi Rob.
Hi, Nathan. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah. So, first of all, um, I guess you could introduce yourself and what you do for the audience.
Sure. I'm Rob. I'm a co-founder and the head of curriculum at Kibo School. Kibo's a new online university. Right now, we're in our third term with our first cohort of students. We offer a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. The academic program is delivered online, but then we also have local student community. Right now, students are in Ghana, Nigeria, and Kenya.
Awesome. Awesome. And what made you to kind of co-found Kibo School? What was really the inspiration behind that?
Yeah, so there's a really good YouTube video. My co-founder Ope gave a really great presentation at the ASU GSV conference I guess this was 2022, and really sort of spells out the whole vision. But I can try and do it justice. So we see a big opportunity in delivering quality education at scale at a low price point, something that's still affordable for students. So a lot of the traditional universities teach degrees that students don't actually expect to use. They don't want the job in agriculture or construction management, but those are the degrees that are available to them. And then there's a bunch of students who just don't. There's no seat for them in the university at all. So we think that online is the right way to build for scale, to reach the number of students we want at the quality that we want. We can have professors from anywhere in the world, which we have been taking full advantage of. I think we've got 3 continents so far, and probably 8 countries for professors, it's pretty cool to be able to tap into all of that. And then students appreciate having both that local aspect where their peers are based where they're based, but they also get to interact with people from around the world. So whether that's fellow students who are in a whole nother city or a whole nother country from them, or teachers from somewhere that they've never been, or and this is actually coming up, getting jobs and internships in faraway countries.
Wow, that sounds really big. And what do you think has been kind of the most exciting part of this? I could imagine is the access to just pretty much any teacher that you would need. That physical limitation is gone. But for you, what do you think is the most exciting aspect of running an online university, and what would you say has been your biggest headache?
Great questions. So I think it's like the most exciting thing is always to see what students build. So the curriculum is very project based. It's very practical, and so students end up doing a lot of writing, a lot of building software, and seeing their creativity, seeing what they decide to build, what they make. That's really cool. We're in a course called Team Software Project right now, and students are designing and building sort of their own project in teams of 3 to 4 students. And it was really cool to see all the pitches. It's really cool to see that we've got demos this week. So that's probably the most exciting, most frustrating. I think that some of it is the sort of struggling with new challenges all the time. I think because we're building a full degree, I feel like we haven't been able to iterate yet on all of our courses. I come from a sort of a boot camp background where we taught just like one pretty short program, and every time we ran it, every few weeks, we would get to update it. And I thought that fast iteration was really important. We're going to get there at Kibo, but I think that not having that is, it's trickier. We get to do one iteration cycle at a time, and it feels slower. It's still faster than a traditional university where you only teach the course, once every couple of years, and then the course very rarely gets updated. So I think that feedback loop is, we've got it. It's quicker than some places.
Yeah, I'm also curious. So, do you guys focus on just tech or all sort of categories? In terms of what you actually teach or cover in the university?
Yeah, so right now the only degree that we offer is a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. So that's what the degree is. Eventually, we'll hopefully broaden out to other STEM degrees. But the Bachelor of Science in Computer Science doesn't just teach computer science. It also teaches a bunch of human skills. At least when we talk to employers, one of the things that they consistently tell us, every time that I go and talk to an employer, is that communication skills are the biggest blocker for the advancement in a software engineering in a software engineering career. So there's a lot of really skilled engineers who can build the features that you want. They've got, they write great code, but if they can't communicate well, if they don't know how to write, if they don't know how to send an email that sort of, hits all of the right points, if they're not organized, if they're not diligent, they don't have those other pieces of the sort of human skills. That's going to be really limiting to them on any team.
Wow. Okay. I guess now we can kind of go into. So first of all, Kibo School, are you guys backed? Are you venture backed, bootstrapped, and how long has it been here?
Yeah, so we're a little more than 2 years old. We are venture backed. Raised money last year from a few different VCs, and it sort of comes with its own expectations. I think bootstrapping, it's sort of you get the only pressure is coming from inside yourself, and then with the VC money comes a growth expectation. Now that aligns with what we had already wanted to build. We want to build something that serves many thousands of students, and so I think that right now hasn't been a conflict. But I think for some businesses that want to grow more slowly, I think that can sometimes be in tension. So that's sort of where we're at right now. The team is 12 or 13, I think right now.
Wow, yeah, focusing more on the quality of the experience rather than just kind of piling up just a lot of students in. I really love that, and I personally, as you know, we work with kind of thousands of academies. It's something that we're starting to see a lot more academies do now. Instead of just getting bigger and bigger and focusing on training as much people as they can, which is always because they want to focus on growing their revenue line. People are starting to kind of cut down and focus really on delivering this great learning experience for your students.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we believe in very strongly about products, and especially education products, is that retention has got to be your leading product metric. So if students are sticking around, if they are completing the whole program, if they don't leave after one term, then that's a signal to you that they like it, that they still find value in it, that it still fits into their life. And you've got to get that number up first before you can try to grow and pour marketing money on something. We really believe in the sort of retention first mindset. One of the ways that we expect that we'll grow is through referrals, is through testimonials from our current students. Sort of that in that SaaS terminology, there's sort of 100% plus net revenue retention. Practically speaking, it's students telling us and saying, "Wow, I'm really loving this degree, and I think that you could also benefit from this, and would be a great fit in our community." So the actual feelings that students have, their sense that they're valued, the sense that they are welcomed into the community, that they have something to learn and something to contribute. That's really key for us to building an educational experience that feels like something you want to invite your friends to.
Awesome. And I mean, so one thing that I also want to ask, just curious, if you guys haven't doing this, if you ever have plans to do this in the future, one thing that we know is, a few weeks ago we coined the term the upscaling economy. And
Mhm.
the thing with a lot of adult learners, I mean, we're both adults here. I mean, let's be honest, learning is boring for a lot of people.
Yeah, sure.
For a lot of people, but most times people learn because they either want to either kickstart a career or they want to improve their existing career. Is there going to be any kind of career play, connecting your students to jobs, helping with career coaching or career placement? Do you see that coming into play anytime soon?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, just what the thing that you said sort of made me think of. There was a study that I'm in a Slack group that the study sort of came up and people were dissecting it. And one of the interesting findings was a study on MOOCs, on these massively open online courses. And it found that students who were taking a MOOC because they wanted a skill for their job, it was something sort of extrinsically motivated, it was about their career, they're much more likely to complete than students who are just taking it because they were curious. And the authors of the study had all of this stuff to say about intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. And I think that was sort of an interesting conversation. But I think that point that people who are working, people who are adults, they're taking these courses because they want an outcome, they want a job, they want a raise, they want a promotion. So at Kibo, we're still pretty early. Students are still in their first year of the degree, but we're already sort of starting to get into this career phase. The way that shows up earliest in this program is through internships. So the degree is 3 years. It's a quarterly system. So each term is sort of 1 quarter, so 3 months. And term 4 and then term 8 are both internship terms. So students will get a chance to work on a real project with a real team, and see how the things that they've been learning in the classroom actually, how does this actually apply when there's a software project that has users? Because I think that one of the sort of classic failings in a CS degree is that you learn all this theory and then you go and you enter the real world and it's like, oh, software is so different than what I learned in the school. There's so much about teamwork. There's so much about feedback from users, about maintenance, rather than just building things from scratch. So all of those ideas really come together when you're building a real project. So awesome. Internships is sort of where we're starting, and there's a bunch we're doing on that career side to support students in actually getting those internships.
That's awesome. We may actually have a discussion around that later on. Yeah. Okay, so I think we're kind of in our last 2 questions now. The first is, the upscaling economy. So when we coined this term a few weeks ago, it was basically to describe something that we noticed, not just on Klas, but just rather in the markets generally. In the past 2-3 years, new modern independent academies are popping up everywhere. Most are focused on certain verticals to train the future workforce. It's almost becoming a movement, though kind of like an unspoken movement. What do you see, or rather, what do you think is going to happen in the next 5 years? This upskilling economy that is really starting. Do you think people should be launching their own academies? Do you think we need more independent academies in the world today?
Yeah, I see the same trend that you're seeing, and so I think that there will definitely be a lot more independent academies. I'm curious about a few different sort of avenues for growth. I think one of the things that's tricky is about skill verification. So I think that people who are practitioners, who can teach part-time, who can sort of start their own school, who have had that expertise and can build that organic connection to students, I think they frequently make the best teachers, and the learning is really relevant to students. I think that some of the things that are hard about the model is that building a brand, building credibility, and building trust among sort of for that outcome. Like, does an employer trust that you went to this unaccredited, just like somebody teaching you? And some employers will say, "Wow, I know that person, and that is like you learned from that guy. That's great." Other employers will be more skeptical. So I think solving that skill verification problem is going to be a big one. If you can get somebody to a point where there's a trusted credential, then I think that solves it. I think that the other thing, sort of other trends, I think are about community. So some people create sort of around themselves this organic learning community and then monetize a piece of it. It's like, oh, well, I've got thousands of people who are learning from me, and then, a couple hundred who are taking sort of a full-time apprenticeship kind of program or some other sort of next tier of learning. Maybe that has to do with the skill verification. Maybe it's more hours. Maybe it's more face time with the instructor. But I think that community is really a key piece of a lot of effective online learning. And the other, I sort of mentioned this word apprenticeships, but I think that's another interesting trend that we'll probably see is trying to embed more paid or unpaid, but work as part of the sort of academy model. I think getting students to have experience with the actual job, I think that's going to be really key to proving that they have the skills in addition to learning the skills themselves.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's something that we're also kind of looking at Klas for our academies, which is really true. I mean, I could say that I learned from so and so, but it doesn't mean anything to a lot of employers. So making the students actually have that experience, adds a lot. And I guess the final question is, what would be your own personal advice, for someone that wants to be an so there's a term I heard sometime last year. They call it the edupreneur, kind of combining education and entrepreneurship, which, to be honest, describes a lot of what we are doing today. For someone that wants to kind of come into this space, launch their own academy, become an entrepreneur, use teaching, not just as a way of impacting people's lives, but also as a way of actually building a business. What's your last your final advice for them?
Yeah, I guess there's sort of one recommendation and then one sort of firm. You have to do this. So you have to prove to students that just like students have to prove to employers that the credential that they get from you or whatever they've learned is something that's valuable. You also have to make that proof, that case to students that you're an expert, that you have something of value, that the student will get something of value. It's like, this is what they'll build, or this is what you'll be able to show or talk to somebody about. So having that proof as part of your marketing message, and then sort of taking it through the whole curriculum and saying, at each point, this is what you're going to be able to do or show or prove. So that's one thing that everybody's going to need to do, just in order to get students, and then in order for the students to find that value and then recommend their courses. The piece of advice, just the recommendation, is that there's a lot of other people who are in this space, and just like we connected, I think that there's a lot of people who are cheering for you. We want this world where there's lots of little academies, and people are willing to connect. So I'm always willing to take conversations. I think that there's a lot of other people in the community who want to just like share best practices, but also just like chit chat, gripe, share things that are exciting to them. And so reach out to people, join communities of people who are working in this space and connect.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for taking out the time for this podcast, and thank you everyone too for tuning in. So this is the end of the episode 2 of podcast. It's going to be posted on Friday, and I'll see you guys next Friday.